She's saying it's probably the worst atrocity of the last 2 years. But then immediately afterwards says, in the scope of modern history, it's unfortunately far from unique. In broader context, Israel's systematic ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, the depths of the depravity of what Israel has gone to in order to completely wipe any semblance of Palestinian identity over the 77 years since the Nakba. It is unique. It is a uniquely cruel and evil thing. Breadtube is Deadtube. We're going to entertain a little bit of YouTube drama. It's not really drama because I don't really think it's a huge thing, but it's certainly something that the Tabernacle has brought up. And I know Cav a little bit. We're not like huge mates or whatever, but I have spoken to him a little bit over the years, and he put this on Blue Sky the other day. People who are/were fans of Contrapoints, PhilosophyTube, and Hbomberguy, how do you feel about their relative silence on things like Gaza? Not using their platform much or getting into things about it like Contrapoints. This is my genuine, honest take. To be honest, I learned a while ago they're hopeless liberals. Not one of them lives by their beliefs. They don't promote real revolutionary practice. They just chill in their nebula content creator six-figure lifestyle. There you go, I said it. I'm not trying to start drama. That's how I feel about Breadtubers, which is why I've never tried to say that I'm a Breadtuber or anything like that. And furthermore, this is my take on Contra. I'm not gonna talk too much about it, but anyway. There's a few video essayists who have decided that the Gaza genocide was the perfect time to talk about leftist anti-Semitism while being quiet themselves about Gaza for some bizarre reason. I agree. So let's have a look at that now. Let's see what he's saying about it. He dropped this video yesterday. Let's hear what he's got to say. I've always got a lot of time for Cav. He's got great takes. I think Cav is like the only revolutionary British person that I watch aside from Sophie. Sean as well. Like Sean is not like necessarily, you know, telling people to do praxis or like organize or stuff like that, but he definitely reports on the stuff and it's a lot better than a lot of them. All I'm going to say about Abigail Thorne is that she is going to be in the Star Trek thing that is a Disney production. Disney is BDS. Did I say Star Trek? I'm so sorry. Not Star Trek. Star Wars. I really meant to say Star Wars. I'm so sorry. I'm a Star Trek fan. Oh, fuck. Whatever. You know I mean Star Wars.
There seems to be some sort of correlation between leftists who are on Nebula and leftists who have chosen to talk about leftist anti-Semitism while Israel are doing the worst crime against humanity of this century and one of the worst crimes in the post-war era. This video isn't some sort of pressure campaign against very prominent creators to do a fundraiser for Gaza or something like that. It's more about growing out of certain content niches.
I think the thing is here is that I know that Bad Empanada has already like made videos about this. I'm not like a huge like Bad Empanada guy. I'm pretty sure everybody watches Bad Empanada because it's just like funny. He's like mostly harmless. I'm pretty certain that Bad Empanada has said like a couple of times things like, you know, oh, I can't believe this one Breadtuber like just literally doesn't say anything. And people have been like, oh, he's crazy. He loves drama. This, that, and the other. And like, yeah, sure. Like I get that. I think it's fine to be a bit more ruthless than this. I'm not criticizing Cav. I'm not saying like, oh, he should have gone harder or whatever, because there's an element of this where you can be too toxic. I shouldn't fucking speak, to be honest. The big video that I made about another creator and everyone was like, that was so toxic, you shouldn't have done that, but I stand by every word I fucking said in that video. You can get accused of being toxic, you can get this, that, and the other. You can invite drama to yourself, you can invite people to like dunk on you and shit. I think it's just because he's a chill guy, right? And I'm not being like, oh, he should have gone well harder and like named him or whatever, but it's like, let's let him cook.
And Breadtube isn't any like formal movement, and you could link some of it to like the new atheist YouTube content and the split within that community where one went full right wing and others tried to stay more like liberal and principled.
Yeah, I'm glad he's saying this because it's like you have to fundamentally remember that there was this kind of progression from YouTube where it was dominated by like sort of like skeptic tube, which then turned into like Islamophobia. And then in response to that, Breadtube was like, yo, actually, it's fucked up to be an atheist, but like focus on Muslims and how evil and bad they are when you're like a white guy, right? Yeah, even Contrapoints was part of the new atheist circle. That is the brain by which YouTubers who debunked a lot of that stuff developed. They were like, okay, I need to fight back against this stuff. So what do? I meet them in their arena and we use facts and logic and debating and rah-tah-tah. That's why there was like the evolution of the debate debate perverts, as they all turn out to be, and how that kind of like interacts with it. I think that if you have that brain, that overly analytical, no, this is correct, like, you know, you're either going to be predispositioned to support neoliberal politics, or at the very least, electoral politics. And if you are dedicated and support electoral politics and are invested in it, then you've got a very limited brain when it comes to geopolitics. And, you know, it's the liberal mind prison, right? I think that's the framing of this. And it's good that he's like pointing this out. And this is potentially a reason as to why we're at where we're at, where loads of these people now are just like, yeah, we got our Nebula income, we got our, you know, regular millions of subscribers. Like, I can't imagine how many viewers the top YouTubers, the top, quote, Breadtubers still get that gives them ad revenue. And they're probably getting new patrons every day, despite the fact they, you know, don't make videos yearly kind of thing. Like, they make videos yearly now. Again, I'm not going to, like, criticize people. You know, a lot of them make a lot of good videos. Contrapoints, for example, was the person who made me I'm never going to understand what it's like to be trans because I'm cis, but, like, made me get trans people. Basically, I understood it when in the words that she put it in. I was like, oh, I get it. And that's valuable, right? She will have done a lot of good stuff in that regard, but she's a liberal. You know, lots of people are. She interviewed fucking Hillary Clinton. There's a lot of good stuff that these Breadtubers have done, but it will only get to a certain point if you're in that liberal mind prison, right? If you're not going to engage with critical thinking of the world that we live in and the geopolitics that you're engaged in. And also, if your material conditions are up there, if you like earn a lot of dough, which these people do, you are not going to be that invested. You're not going to be that like invested in class struggle. And class struggle is inherently tied to the Palestinian struggle. Because whenever we rise up, the imperial boomerang that is tested in Palestine on Palestinians comes back to oppress us, which we're seeing now, particularly with ICE in the US and also in the UK. We're seeing Israeli, quote-unquote, battle-tested police vans that have been tested in Gaza.
Relevant.
They lack decolonial thinking, yeah. I think the best way to understand, like, decolonial thinking, and I might get some criticism in chat for getting this wrong, but the best starting point is to remember that, one, white people are not, like, the dominant force in the world because of any superior technology that we had or so-called advances we made in science or understanding of the world or anything like that. We are dominant through aggression and barbarism and genocide. Like, that is what happened. Like, white people dominated the world, genocided Native Americans, genocided a bunch of African countries, like people in Africa, indigenous Africans, you know, did slavery. The sheer amount of labor that was done in our world by slaves. Yeah, Michael Parenti is a good starter. Everything you know is wrong because your country's been lying to you for centuries to keep the powerful in power. Exactly. Here's a great one. This one still blows my mind. The true size of, yeah, this shit is fucking mental. This shit is crazy. True size of the United States, right? It can actually fit in Africa 3 times. There's China, there's India. That's how big Africa is. It's essentially like, if you hate capitalism and imperialism, decolonialism is pretty easy. It's pretty easy to understand. The true size of, I don't know, United Kingdom. Let's try that. So, like, you could see it like slightly getting smaller. This is the craziest bit. Maps are always inflated with white countries. White countries are always like, and it's so bad that like the United Kingdom is actually kind of the same size as Sweden and Norway, because those countries are above us on the map, so normally they're like inflated as well. The further down you go, look, the smaller that Britain gets. Whoa, crazy. We can fit right in the middle there. What is that, Congo? We're literally the same size as Congo. And that's white supremacy. That's colonialism. That's imperialism. The complete misrepresentation of fucking the reality of the world to benefit white supremacism and imperialism, you know?
Without Breadtube, we don't have as much success with people who are like outwardly socialist, Marxist and stuff like that, despite the fact that a lot of these creators might be more like soc dem or left liberals and stuff. I think they have had a really good influence.
I think that if you're working class, you will have like a much more class oriented look at stuff. Like Sean, I would say, is probably the most like class conscious so-called breadtuber. You know, he talks about Palestine, he talks about all these kinds of things. He talks about transphobia in the UK and how it like links to fascism and stuff. Like, if you have a good class consciousness, you're going to talk about those kinds of things and you're going to get it if you're working class.
The audience have kind of shifted. Like, we don't want to support the Democrats and even really people like AOC and Bernie Sanders. We're kind of done with all of that. And we want something more radical. And we want that system to completely change. I'm not saying there isn't a place for it, especially as entertainment. But in terms of actually doing anything in the online political space, I think Breadtube specifically has run its course. So you really just have to ask yourself, if you're defending the political video essay channels from actually commenting about Gaza, you have to ask yourself why you're doing that. So Denise Gough, who is the star
Yes! I'm so glad he's mentioned this.
Season 1 and Season 2. She's always been really good on Palestine, right? As she was getting all this attention for Andor Season 2, she didn't stop posting about it. She started continually posting about it, like nearly every single time she even...
And again, Disney is BDS. She is putting her livelihood at risk with speaking out about Palestine. And that is what solidarity is. It's going, do you know what? This could harm me, but I'm doing it because it makes sense. I'm doing it because it's human. It is the right thing to do. Right, exactly. I hate the too much to lose argument. If minimum wage Starbucks workers are willing to lose their jobs for their morals, why can't the creators who make thousands on Nebula Patreon a month stand up for something? It's insane. It's insane. This is what fucks me up so much. Careerism is a factor, but silence on Gaza is never not underpinned by racism. Yeah. If you are earning enough money and your lifestyle has significantly changed to the point where like you were working class, but now you're middle class, yeah, you're gonna start to be like, well, I've got a lot of money and I remember what it was like to be poor. Right? But it doesn't excuse the fact that like all you are doing is going, I'm benefiting somewhat from this system and I don't want to rock the boat. But the most based thing that you can do, I mean, look, being middle class, depending on how much money you make, like I don't know how much money fucking Abigail Thorne makes. I know it's like 6 figures. I don't know how much money fucking Contrapoints makes or Hbomberguy or whatever. But like if you were not middle class and now you are middle class, the reality is that you're still closer to the working class. There is the lower classes and then there is the ruling class. I guess you could call yourself a class traitor, being middle class, turning around and go, do you know what? No, I am going to have solidarity with Palestinians and it doesn't matter if I lose money. This is the thing. Your soul is gone. You're not seeing people as people. You're not seeing a certain type of people as people, and you're saying it's the same kind of like mentality that Blue MAGA has, right? Blue MAGA is like, no, you got to vote for Kamala Harris because then at least the genocide is happening over there where I don't see it and we can go back to brunch. In some studies of like class analysis and Marxist economics, people are like, oh, well, the middle class isn't a real thing. You're not part of the ruling class unless you're in the ownership class. Like, people should think about things in the way of the ownership class and the working class. And that can be difficult because the idea of the middle class is something that is like, entrenched in society to make you go, oh, well, those people have more than me, so it's shit. And then the middle class go, oh, those people have less than me, so they're shit, while distracting you from like the real people who are in charge, the people in the ownership class. If you're not a landlord, if you don't run a business that has staff and you're, exploiting their wage, it's not a cooperative or whatever, I guess you could argue that like you are closer to the working class for sure, right? But again, that's the thing. A couple of bad months away from being down here with the rest of the unwashed masses, right? More often than not, middle class people are actually not middle class. They're in the ownership class. So they're petty bourgeois reactionaries who are business owners and landlords, and it's more in their best interest to not take a rent cut. If you're a landlord, you're not going to vote for rent reforms because that hurts your profits. So your interest is with the ruling class. If you experience precarity, you have like a much more informed class solidarity and class consciousness before even learning about any of that.
When would the right time be? What would the conditions be that you would finally say something? Do we have to have internment camps?
And it's also because everybody can see what is happening. Like, I think this is a really good shout from Cav in terms of like, if people see this video, they can only really like go, oh, yeah, do you know what? People probably do want me to speak out. People probably would be wanting me to speak out. And I doubt I'm going to lose subscribers. And if you do lose subscribers, surely you can take the hit. But anyway, Contrapoints has since posted something on Reddit. I'm not gonna like focus on that and like critique Contrapoints. She's always been a liberal, she said dumb stuff in in 2016, she said dumb stuff in 2019, she said dumb stuff yesterday. Like, we all knew about this. She's not going to do anything about Palestine. It sucks. Maybe some of her audience will be like, this sucks. This is bad. The problem is with parasocial relationships that some people have to certain creators, that it can become like a religion, and that's bad. Their followers can be like completely overzealous. I don't think there's much good in like focusing a lot of hate and criticism on a trans woman or trans women. I think it's fine to criticize them about not posting about Palestine. I think it's shit. There's a lot more people who your ire could be focused on. Getting mad at Contrapoints is not going to stop the genocide in Gaza. That's the thing to remember about all of this. Just getting mad and yelling at Contrapoints, or getting mad and yelling at PhilosophyTube, or even Hbomberguy, even though he's a cis guy, it's not going to do a thing. It's not going to do a thing. If you want to do something about the genocide in Palestine of Palestinians, go out to your local Palestine Solidarity organization, take part in BDS. If you're in a trade union, unionize your workplace. If you're not, see if you can get your trade union to sign, pass a motion that supports BDS, or will pressure a certain company to divest, boycott, divest, and sanctions. These are the kind of things, the pressure points that you should be engaging in. None of these people have gone to Israel and kissed bombs. The insane patriotism for a completely different state that isn't even as old as most people's grandparents is some kind of special mental illness, or whatever the more appropriate term is, something that's broken inside there. It's Zionism. Zionism is in the same way that transphobia is like a disease that you get, because it is. That's the only way to fucking describe it. It's like, it's something that starts to like eat away and like rot your brain, and Zionism is exactly the same. It gets in there and it's like no, and just starts to chomp away. Before you know it, you got nothing left, and all you're doing is going, I'm Israel Chai, terror babies, every baby is a terrorist. I don't care that they kill babies, they should kill more of them, etc., etc. 60,000 people being killed is horrific, right? And she's saying it's probably the worst atrocity of the last 2 years. But then immediately afterwards says, in the scope of modern history, it's unfortunately far from unique. In broader context, Israel's systematic ethnic cleansing of Palestinians is the depths of the depravity of what Israel has gone to in order to completely wipe any semblance of Palestinian identity over the 77 years since the Nakba. It is unique. It is a uniquely cruel and evil thing that they have done. And again, framing it as like modern history, I don't know what she's like sort of, going back to here. It's diminishing. It's the fact that she isn't taking this seriously. The response to this was talking about, I'm not going to debate the death toll with you, but you know very well there's a uniquely racial component to the Palestinian genocide. It's by far the most extreme example of white supremacy in the 21st century. Responds to it with, without making excuses for what Israel is doing or has done, I don't think white supremacy is the best framework for understanding the ideology behind it. When it is overwhelmingly white Jewish people from Europe who are going to Israel, stealing land. And again, you have to remember, you could just convert to Judaism and go to Israel. If you have no history of Palestinian support or pro-Palestinian activism, you right now are white. If you're a white person, they're super racist, so they don't let black people do it as easily. Like, Ugandan Jews were like blocked from having birthright in Israel. Uganda was pegged as one of the places that Israel was going to have its colony, essentially. If you're like a white person, you could just like become Jewish, you could convert to Judaism, and you can go to Israel and you can get a free kill of a brown person. You will not get prosecuted in the occupied Palestinian territories if you are an Israeli, so-called Israeli, and you kill a Palestinian. You can just do that. You can get away with it. And there is a huge amount of evidence to say that a lot of people in post-war Germany, white people from post-war Germany, think about that. Think about what kind of ideology those people would have who converted to Judaism and went to so-called Israel and took part in the genocide. Rhodesia was that for white supremacists too. Yeah. Same thing. They treat the Arabic Jewish population as free labor. It's apartheid, yeah.
Was because she was fighting with Taylor Lorenz, because she reposted a guy called Rathbone, who I don't like, by the way, so I'm not here to defend any.
So, like, the problem is, so this was the first fucking thing that I saw her speak about. Now, you can go to her Twitter if you're still on Twitter, and you can, like, search Contrapoints Gaza, Contrapoints Palestine, Contrapoints Israel, right? And she might have tweeted, like, 3 things. She did say it is a genocide. You got to give her that. However, here we are, 21 months in, 22, it might even be 22 months in now, and she's like, 50% of the discourse on this app is Jew hate. Now, it's a cherry-picking situation because Rathbone is a shit example of an anti-Zionist leftist because he has absolutely posted some anti-Semitic, like truly anti-Semitic stuff. I don't know if that is because he is misguided. He seems to like post a lot of stuff willy-nilly and not really think about it, and I think that that's irresponsible as a content creator. I got a lot of criticisms of Rathbone, you know, but this is the thing. They love platforming the worst examples. Even in this thing, if you are someone who understands anti-Zionism, if you're someone who understands the Palestinian struggle, you might just think, yeah, like a lot of American presidents do this. Like a lot of American presidents go to so-called Israel, they go to Jerusalem, they go to the Wailing Wall, they cosplay as Jewish, they kiss the wall, and it's all in support of Israel. It's a publicity stunt to support Israel, right? They do that. It's true. However, the JFK thing is the problematic element here. He is saying that JFK didn't do it when there are a lot of, well, not a lot of, the overwhelming majority of American presidents have done this. There are a few other American presidents who haven't done this, like Jimmy Carter, for example. The other argument here is that Israel didn't hold Jerusalem until 1967. So yeah, and he's posted some like truly anti-Semitic things, like saying like Israel has made Hitler popular again. And it's like, come on, man. He's definitely a fucking anti-Semite. So he has these not easy to pass posts where you might be like, if you're on the fringes, you might be like, yeah, that's true. Here's the thing. She's talking about like 50% of the discourse on this app is Jew hate. And it's like, oh, okay, sis. Like, here's the thing. Owned by Elon Musk. Why do you think that is? And also, here's another thing. You know, this it goes completely. This is the Israeli Zionist line. My stepfamily, unfortunately, Zionists. I was disowned by my stepbrothers and my stepsister when they saw me doing anti-Zionist content that basically just exposed what Israel is doing after October 7th. Right? It's crazy because they've always known my position. They have always known my position. That I'm pro-Palestinian. They've always known that. I've never hidden it from them, ever. But they saw me making content about Zionism, criticizing it overwhelmingly, and saying how it uses Jews and brainwashes them. And, you know, I have a direct, like, experience of that with them because they are mostly nice people. They are liberal Zionists. And it just sucks, right? It just fucking sucks. But the line is, I saw my stepbrother, I saw him posting, like, repeatedly incidents of, like, legit anti-Semitism, like, literally people who are literally hating Jews. And this is because you know, people are pro-Palestine, but it's not. Every single time Israel does fucking war crimes and people stand up and go, that's fucked, there are of course Nazis and fascists who legit hate Jews, who, you know, use the opportunity to attack Jewish people violently sometimes. And whose fault is that? Is it the people standing up for Palestine? No, it's fucking Israel. Yeah, there's so much Jew hate. There's so much anti-Semitism happening now. And it's like, no, the anti-Semitism was always there. Fast and loose with that term, anti-Semitic, like being against genocide means you're full of hate. It's so bizarre to try and wrap my head around that. Yeah, no, it's doublespeak. It's literally 1984 Animal Crossing doublespeak. If you use the Star of David as a swastika and you constantly say, we are the Jewish people, this is Jewish land, we're doing this because this is what Jewish people want, what else are people gonna think? What else are some people gonna think? The people who are directly on the end of that, like who the jagged edge of that colonialism they're pressed up against for their entire life, and they're constantly said, this is what Jewish people deserve, Jewish people want this, the Jewish people want this, everywhere in the world Jewish people want this. What else are they gonna fucking think? They're gonna be like, damn, Jews suck, dude. And I'm not saying that that's good or that's fine, but it's Israel's fault. This is the craziest shit. Taylor Lorenz, and you know I got my critiques of Taylor Lorenz for when she spoke with libs of TikTok, but she's pretty good, generally speaking. Nowhere here did I or anyone replying to this thread that I've seen say the second thing, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. I think when your content is being used by a Zionist like Klein, you might want to consider that your message could have been communicated with more nuance. What Taylor means by this is that Ethan Klein is a fucking psycho Zionist who just cannot help attacking women, attacking any kind of minority for being remotely anti-Zionist, was basically using Contrapoints tweet to be like, look, even the fucking smartest people on the left know this shit. What's wrong with Hassan? And then fucking Natalie's like, oh, I don't think this issue is reducible to Hassan versus Ethan. Nobody mentioned Hassan! What are you talking about? Sorry, I know I said I wasn't going to focus on Contrapoints, but Cav's bringing up the stuff. We're watching his video. She's too online. She's always been too online. The problem is not Contrapoints. The problem is, yes, there's something to be said. Cavanackle is right. There is something to be said about creators who have a huge platform who aren't using it to speak about incredibly important things. It really does have to be treated as a distraction. Yes, it does.